residential tech talk, lighting specialist to arc residential tech.
Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Airzone North America's Victoria Garcia Massimo and Bob Howey join us from Miami and Dallas to discuss their company's smart control solution for HVAC systems. Airzone's Aidoo Pro acts as a bridge between proprietary HVAC inverter and mini split manufacturers' protocols and IoT device or smart home control system APIs. If you're like me, when I first learned about Airzone about a year ago, the words inverter and mini split might be completely unfamiliar terms. And if you do know what they are, you may not realize how hard those particular HVAC system designs are to integrate into a smart home without losing their energy-saving features. That's what our guests today are here to explain for us, as the market for inverter and mini split systems, which is already huge around the world, begins to take hold in North America. Welcome to the podcast, Victoria Garcia Massimo and Bob Howey. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Jeremy. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And Victoria, maybe you could start us off by giving some background for those who don't understand the difference between traditional HVAC systems and inverter systems. What makes them the inverter systems unique, more energy efficient, that sort of thing. Can you explain that background before we get into discussing how your product works?
Okay, so the biggest part of it, comparing a traditional unit, how we call a non-inverter and an inverter unit, is that the traditional unit, it doesn't matter if the need is for 1 degree or 10 degrees, it's gonna go full speed. It's gonna consume all the energy that unit can give you to get to that 1 or 10 degrees. When we go to the inverter compressors, to the inverter-driven units, the biggest part of that difference is that if I just need 1 degree, I'm just going to consume a little bit of energy. We can modulate the speed, we can modulate the consumption of that unit to that 1 degree. If it's 10 degrees, of course, I will need more energy. So my unit is going to consume more energy to get to those 10 degrees. And what Bob was mentioning earlier today about the smart thermostats, these smart thermostats, they run as 24 volts interfaces. So they basically turn the unit on and off. Same thing happens with the thermostats that we have for the home automation. For all the providers of home automation, they can turn the unit on or off. In the case of the inverter units, the LGs, the Mitsubishis, the Daikins of the world, these units have their own protocol inside, their own logic on how this is going to work. And that's where Airzone comes in place as a partner, because we have created relationships with all these manufacturers of HVAC that have allowed us to have access to their protocols. So we have a library of about 80 different manufacturer protocols, and all these protocols are inside these devices that we manufacture, that we sell, and that allow to connect your inverter compressor unit to either smart thermostats or home automation.
Okay, so that just puts the proper power or the communication link that needs to go in between those two things that don't normally talk properly to each other. I'm trying not to sound too stupid while I'm saying that, but it's basically like a translation device in between the two pieces.
Yes.
Very
much.
Okay. And when Bob, when you're as your regional sales manager for the U.S. Central and West parts of the country, and you're working a lot with the custom integration channel, how aware are the folks you're talking to on the CI side to the kind of the communication breakdown between a smart thermostat and an inverter system? Or is it a big educational project for you right now?
No, you're absolutely correct. It is a big educational project for us here at Airzone. The CI teams out there, when the custom integration teams out there that are they are simply looking for a solution for this problem. They know that there is a problem. However, they don't understand how to fix it. When they find out that Airzone has those capabilities, we are being welcomed with just open arms out there in the field. They are absolutely opening their doors and doing it. My only my only hurdle, I should say, is when we do get out there, they understand that the problem exists. However, within that problem, within that integration, Airzone has been able to facilitate between multiple manufacturers. So there's specific needs to each individual manufacturer that we have had to identify, and we've had to create a solution for. It's not just a one piece, plug it in, and we go on our merry way. That would make our lives a whole lot easier out there. Unfortunately, it's not true. But the integrators are truly embracing the technology. It's just now it's how are we going to be able to work it in within their business unit? Because here in the North American market, we are still primarily traditional unitary. So during that time when inverters do come into play, they are excited to have a solution to present to their customers.
Yeah, because when you originally launched, I think the press release was all about Ecobee and Honeywell and Nest, those smart thermostats. But then as the announcements kind of kept rolling out over the last year or so, you started talking about Crestron and Control4, ELAN, Lutron, Savant, all the smart home control brands. So each of those requires a different driver.
That's correct.
And that's a fairly familiar kind of a solution for the integration channel, knowing that there are drivers for the different technologies that are third-party type systems that they're integrating together. So that must be familiar language with them, and just knowing that each one is available. Is there anything special with the way that those drivers have to be brought into a system to be able to work, and the timing of that when the HVAC system is installed versus the control system, or maybe that already the inverter system might already exist and they're adding a smart home system into the home?
Yeah. I mean, I would say probably primarily our clients that we help and we assist in the engineering, and it does start from right on from the original of the install of the HVAC and the smart home system. However, there is there's no handcuffs at that point. I mean, if they wanted to add a smart home system later, they're more than welcome to do so, and being able to bring that in within at any time, could be a year from now, or if they wanted to phase the job, not an issue at all. So the opportunities out there for the integrators with Crestron and Lutron, once again, they all have different verbiage and different ways they go to market, and then of course the way that they present themselves in their own libraries or their own portfolios. Savant runs just a tad bit differently than, for instance, Crestron, and Crestron runs differently than the Control4. And then there are some that are the integrators out there that prefer a specific home integration, system, a home automation, or even a building management system. They prefer Control4 over Crestron, or vice versa. And that's okay. Whatever we want, the end user is our ultimate goal. We want them to have a very successful, energy efficient unit, as well as having just the convenience of being able to control it all from one single app, which is provided through the home automation.
Today's episode of Residential Tech Talks is brought to you by NICE, the global manufacturer of smart home security and building automation solutions. NICE is bringing together 30 years of innovation with award-winning products from ELAN, SpeakerCraft, and Panamax to create a holistic ecosystem for builders, integrators, and consumers. Learn more about how you can create one home with one solution at go.niceforyou.com/RTT. So going back to understanding these systems a little bit more, so I was starting to get my head wrapped around inverter and mini split, and I've talked to enough integrators now who like the mini split will be a familiar term to them, and so I'm realizing I'm not, I may be later to the game than some of them, but you can't assume everyone knows what it is. But I just needed to lay my eyes on what those systems look like, and I had it in my head that unit that goes like on the wall, that kind of a wide white kind of piece that's the ductless system, was it, and realized that's just one kind of component within these technologies. And I remember seeing that in Europe a while ago when I was traveling, and you would see it in like a store and it would turn on as needed. And then you started to see that in the US and maybe a retrofit kind of setup. So that was one thing. And now, is that a mini split, or is that a inverter system? I forget which one's which on that.
Well, the answer to your question is yes to
all
both.
of the above.
Yeah,
Okay.
both. Yes, it is considered what we call a mini split, and it is an inverter-driven drive within it, either an inverter-driven motor as well as a compressor.
Okay.
So to answer your question, yes, you're right. You're right on both parts.
But then there's a unit on the outside that is quite sizable, like you would have your AC unit in a traditional system. That goes on the outside of the home. And I'm just trying to get like an idea of how these systems, I get for like an expansion room, like you have maybe a sunroom that doesn't have any heating and cooling in it. That's a great application use case. But for a home that's making the conversion completely to this, or that's the system they're going with.
Yeah.
Do these systems sort of blend in as well as a traditional system would in a home? Because we're talking about a lot of high-end homes and the CI channel.
No, the thing here, I would like to step in and answer this question is that
Sure.
That's the most common of a mini split, right? Maybe we'll add one in the garage, in the elevator room, in the IT room. But in general, the inverter and the VRF, we see ducted units, the vertical units, the horizontal. Now we have new multiple position units that can be placed either vertically or horizontally. They can be placed in a closet, in the attic, in the full ceiling. So in general, yes, this technology can perfectly replace the traditional unitary units for sure. And talking about the outdoor unit that you mentioned, one of the biggest advantages of using this technology is that the outdoor unit will be smaller, more quiet, and will weigh a lot less. And from one outdoor unit, we can connect multiple indoor units, either ducted or ductless. So we also have this advantage, and we're starting to see a lot of buildings in areas, very dense areas like New York City, or different cities in which in a building, you can have maybe one outdoor unit serving multiple air handling or indoor units, either ductless or ducted. The biggest part has been, well, a culture change, of course, on maybe new generation of HVAC technicians pitching these new type of units, and also, well, cost, because these units, yeah, they're way more efficient, but at the beginning they used to be very costly. Now they're getting there. There are also a lot of rebates, incentives, energy rebates in different parts of the country that are helping customers when making a decision which unit to go with and improving the type of unit they have now at home. But I would say, I don't know if you, Bob, would like to add something there. I would say the limitation on that adoption may have been cost, of course.
Okay, right.
Well, and Jeremy, just to be candid on that, most people are really starting to see the benefit of using the inverter for a whole house, and they're starting to outweigh the long-term cost and the monthly cost that it's going to need, because your average traditional home at a 2,000 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home is going to roughly do about 45 amps an hour on an air conditioning, just the air conditioning. That's average. However, the inverter unit draws the same amount of power of a toaster within around 8 to 10 amps in an hour. So if you can imagine being able to control your whole home and actually have a very systematic way of doing it. Each individual space has its own ecosystem, if you will, and you're only drawing the same amount of power as a small appliance in your kitchen. It's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I would make the case for I have a home that is just large enough to not really be efficient for a traditional system, and to put in a second zone wouldn't be, affordable. And
Yeah.
so it's like the answer is the inverter system, basically, because you could just worry about certain rooms that don't get the proper air handling,
100%.
Yeah, so there would be a great opportunity there. But yeah, and I don't think cost is necessarily an issue with our typical client base in the CI channel, but you could always make the case against things if you want. air- you know, solar makes a lot of sense from a green standpoint and getting off the grid, but if you want to say how much it costs up front versus the down the road benefits, it's kind of, you can argue that all day long. But then you go to different parts of the country, or continent, if you will, where California, for instance, very green conscious and regulated. And so you're going to have opportunities there to really step in and say, this is really the best technology for the future. There
Absolutely.
particularly. I would just kind of want to wrap up and ask if there's something you want to tell the CI channel who you haven't engaged with, that would help them in terms of their education, or being prepared for when questions come up with clients who may be going down a different route with their HVAC systems with inverter and mini splits, what they can be doing to kind of get prepared for that. Is there any kind of educational tools or knowledge that they should be kind of getting from their preparation?
No, absolutely. I mean, and here at Airzone, we want to make it very, very easy for people to understand not only where we are at, but but we want to make sure that they are well educated. So if you were to actually go to our website, we have a full academy that is absolutely free for them. They can come to our website, they can sign up. It is a free account, and they can learn anything and everything about not only the inverter, about Airzone as a whole. The HVAC system, and then of course also the custom integration tools that we provide. And then of course on top of that, they always have access to myself as well as Victoria. If they wanted to have any type of consultant work that needed to be done, that needed to be on top of that, we would be more than willing to assist. And there's other people around on the field that are also available as well. Myself as well as other team members that are out in the field as well. So, but yeah, no, our educational tools that we have on our website is probably by far the easiest way to go, and to get on our website, take a look at it, and man, just go to town and learn anything and everything you can.
And adding to what Bob said, also on our website, a very important piece of this puzzle, it's we call it the compatibility, right? So is my unit compatible with Airzone? Can I use the Airzone Aidoo Pro for this unit? So even though I mentioned we are compatible with about 80 different manufacturers, Aidoo Pro is available for about 14, 15. Customers can go to our website, which is airzonecontrol.com. They can drop down, check compatibility, input their units, manufacturer, Mitsubishi, Daikin, LG, you name it, and check the model number to see if that unit is going to be compatible with the Aidoo Pro. Most likely it's going to be. Maybe the unit is a little bit older and it's not. They can always reach out to us. So we're constantly adding and adding more and more units into that compatibility tool, as we realize that there are more units out there that are now compatible. Manufacturers are launching new models every now and then. That's one thing. The other thing is also on our website, the integrator can find the drivers. So totally free, they can get there and they'll find the drivers for Control 4, for Savant, for Crestron, and for some others. So that's an important part of it. Finally, we are brand agnostic, meaning that we work with all these manufacturers. So Airzone is brand agnostic, meaning that as an integrator, you don't have to worry about what HVAC unit you have there in that installation. Airzone will solve the issue for any type of unit that you have there.
That's great to hear, and thanks for helping to clarify this new, relatively new category for our channel to really be involved with. We obviously HVAC is part of the home that everyone's been working on their whole career, but these new challenges that have come up that we didn't really know about. And it's kind of a new language and terminology that doesn't roll off our tongues as much as talking about audio and video and lighting control. So appreciate your time on this, and hopefully everybody's learned a little bit.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Victoria Garcia Massimo is National Operations Manager, and Bob Howey is Regional Sales Manager for the U.S. Central and West at Airzone North America. You can learn more about Airzone and Aidoo Pro at airzonecontrol.com. That wraps up today's show, which was produced by Residential Tech Today, IPW, and Pretty Easy Podcasts. Please check out prettyeasypodcast.com if you want professional and affordable production help on your own podcast. And if you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you watched or listened to this episode. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at our magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Thursday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talks, lighting specialist to our Residential Tech
Home automation device, smart home or smart house.
This show was produced by Pretty Easy Podcasts and made possible by listeners like you. If you ever thought of doing your own podcast, please visit prettyeasypodcast.com.